For 2 centuries, there's been a certain kind of math problem that was just considered impossible to solve. Literally. But what if that whole impossibility thing was just a 200-year-old misunderstanding? Well, that's the incredible, almost unbelievable claim we're going to dive into today.
And that really gets to the big question here, doesn't it? What if the things we just label as impossible aren't really brick walls, but I don't know, just hurdles we haven't figured out how to jump over yet? Because right now, a brand new claim in the world of mathematics is forcing everyone to ask that very question.
Okay, so this right here is kind of the villain of our story, a general sixth degree polynomial. Now, I know it might look like just a random jumble of symbols, but believe me, for 200 years, finding a clean, exact formula to solve this thing was officially deemed impossible. And I don't mean just really, really hard, I mean proven to be impossible.
So, to really get why this new claim is such a bombshell, we've got to go back and look at the wall that stopped some of the world's greatest minds dead in their tracks for generations. Seriously, this wasn't just another tricky puzzle. It was a fundamental dead end that literally changed the entire direction of algebra.
Just take a look at this timeline. Back in the 1500s, things were moving. Mathematicians cracked equations up to the fourth degree. Awesome, right? And then, silence. For almost 300 years, there was just nothing. They were completely stuck. This long mathematical winter finally came to an end in 1824, but not in the way you'd think. A mathematician named Niels Henrik Abel didn't come forward with a solution. He came forward with a shocking announcement. And that announcement became the Abel-Ruffini theorem. Now, what it basically says is this. For any equation that's degree 5 or higher, there's no general formula to solve it using the standard tools of the trade. Things like addition, subtraction, and radicals like square roots or cube roots. And this wasn't just some theory or a hunch. It was a mathematical proof. The door to solving these was officially, and very loudly, slammed shut. And the impact of that? Oh, it was huge. The theorem basically put up a giant stop sign. The entire quest for perfect, exact answers was pretty much abandoned. Instead, mathematicians, and yeah, even our most powerful supercomputers today, had to settle for good enough answers, for approximations. The idea that some problems were truly fundamentally unsolvable, that became a core belief, almost a dogma in the world of math. Gut, what happens when someone comes along who just refuses to accept a 200-year-old limit? Well, that's exactly what's happening. A new claim has emerged, and it's taking aim directly at the heart of this long held belief. And this quote, this really says it all. Professor Murad Sultan Azouadi says, "I have never accepted that limitation." That's not just a casual statement. That's a declaration of rebellion against a boundary that has literally defined algebra for centuries. So this table really lays out the showdown. On one side, you have the classical methods that, for 200 years, have said, nope, impossible. On the other, you have Azoquides' new theorem, which claims, yes, we can get exact solutions. But for me, the most powerful comparison here is the philosophical one at the bottom. Do you accept the limits, or do you reject what the source calls mathematical fatalism? That's a pretty big deal. Okay, so the million-dollar question is, how? I mean, if the greatest mathematical minds for the last 2 centuries hit a total dead end, what could possibly be different now? Let's take a look at how this new method claims to work. Right, so the old roadblock, the thing that stopped everyone, is related to something called Galois theory. The best way to think about it is like a super complex knot. For these higher degree equations, that knot is just way too complicated to untangle with the traditional tools. So the absolute key to this new proposal is that it doesn't even try to untangle the knot in the old way. Instead, it claims to have found a way to just bypass it completely. So the claimed path to a solution goes a little something like this. First, you take the equation and you reorganize its structure into these recursive layers. Then you apply a whole chain of special transformations. And here's the magic step. You use the equation's own building blocks, its coefficients, to generate the exact roots. It's a method that supposedly doesn't have to touch those old, limited techniques at all. And this is where the claim goes from bold to truly ambitious. This isn't being pitched as some clever one-off trick that only works for sixth-degree equations. No, the source is proposing a universal recursive formula, one that it claims is valid for all polynomial degrees. I mean, if that's true, it's not just a new solution, it's a whole new framework for algebra.
All right, so let's play a game of what if for a second. Let's just assume this claim gets verified and accepted by the global math community. What would that actually mean? How would it completely change the landscape of science and mathematics as we know it?
Well, this chart kind of sums up the core change perfectly. For 200 years, this whole field of algebra has been about approximation, about getting close. This new approach is about a return to perfect, 100% exactness. It's the difference between saying it's almost there and it is exactly there.
And the ripple effects from that shift, they'd be massive. We're talking about redefining what it even means to solve an equation. Abel's famous theorem would go from being this impassable wall to being, well, just a historical milestone. It would, as the source puts it, open up a whole new frontier where no polynomial is actually unsolvable.
Let's make this concrete. Take an equation like this one. X to the 6th plus 1 equals 0. I mean, look at it. It looks so simple, right? But this little equation falls into that unsolvable category. What this new theorem suggests is that for the very first time, we can actually write down a perfect, simple, exact solution for it.
And so that leaves us with this incredible, tantalizing question. The claim is out there. Now, of course, it has to face the fire, the rigorous testing and peer review of the entire global mathematics community. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are we standing right on the edge of a brand new era in one of our oldest and most fundamental sciences?